And I just want to say thank you to Amnesty for standing with Tibetans at this important time. They're always doing work for us, but this is particularly special that they would join us in such a public way in this moment. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks everyone for coming out today. I stand with me today not just as Mona from the San Francisco office, but with 2.2 million Amnesty members from around the globe who are standing with us tonight, crying out for universal respect for human rights. In the recent days, the world has seen serious human rights violations reported in Tibet and Tibetan areas of the neighboring provinces. Peaceful protests are suppressed in violation of protesters' rights of freedom of expression, association, and assembly. Peaceful protests shut down with excessive force. Monks as young as age 15 are at risk of torture and ill treatment. Amnesty International is gravely concerned about the treatment of not just these monks, but hundreds of people detained in the recent crackdown, and has documented patterns of torture and ill treatment of these detainees. Our experience demonstrates that torture and ill treatment flourish in environments characterized by secrecy, lack of transparency, failure to respect rights, and a lack of accountability. Let's look at a couple of examples. Chinese authorities have taken measures to seal off Tibet and surrounding areas to foreign journalists. This is a specific pattern of obstruction and harassment of foreign journalists who try to cover stories deemed politically sensitive in China. An incomplete picture of the Tibet protests has been transmitted to the Chinese public, focusing largely on violence perpetrated by Tibetans. This is a further indication of official government control over the domestic media and its intermittent censorship of broadcast by the international media. China has long banned human rights monitors from Tibet, and the region is now virtually sealed off from foreign journalists and other observers. But this is not new, as we all know. These human rights violations perpetrated in and around Tibet are indicative of human rights violations all across China. And with little than 4 months to go before the Olympic Games, few substantial reforms have been put in place. And it is increasingly clear that current waves of repression are occurring not in spite of, but because of the Olympic Games. These games risk being tarnished with a legacy of repression and persecution. Human rights defenders in China who attempt to report on human rights violations, to challenge policies, or try to rally others face serious human rights violations. Several activists based in Beijing have faced growing harassment, surveillance in the run-up to the Games. Beijing activist Wang Ling, who has been working with Ye Guozhu, was reportedly assigned to 15 months of re-education through labor for signing petitions and preparing banners to protest the demolition of her property to make way for Olympic projects. Peaceful activists remain imprisoned or held under tight surveillance. Despite some high-profile releases, many more have been detained, and we expect many more to be detained in the coming days. Amnesty International calls on China to fulfill the human rights commitment made to the International Olympic Committee, supporting human rights, and also to stand up for the Olympic values enshrined in the Olympic Charter.